Okay, we are here with Owen Hughes, former Olympian in canoe slalom. And so thank you, Owen, for taking some time to catch up with us today as we're sort of on the eve of the opening ceremony and canoe slalom and our athletes getting on the international stage. So maybe, Owen, if you could start just, I suppose, telling us a little bit about how you got into canoe slalom and, yeah, your early days of slaloming and how that evolved into then, going to the Olympics.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Pandora. Look, I'm flattered to be invited to this. Actually, it's nice to reminisce. I don't do it much anymore. That was sort of a part of my life that I don't get to talk about a lot unless it's around some more old timers like me. So it's nice to be able to share it again. I actually got into paddling through my sister, and we lived in Palmerston North, and she was hiring out kayaks on the lagoon down there, and she needed some help one day, and I went down there and helped her. And this must have been, yeah, I would have been sort of probably Form 1 sort of thing, Form 2 sort of thing there. And then it interested me, and I did a fair bit there, just some flat water, just paddling around in plastic boats on the lagoon, which was great. And it wasn't then until I got to high school, and I think like a lot of athletes and academics and that sort of stuff, there's a particular one or two people that come into your life and fast track your future. And I was lucky enough to have that with a teacher at school, Barry Matthews, who was the kayak teacher at Queen Elizabeth College, and then also heavily supported by one of the parents of one of the kids at school as well, Max Grant. He had his son at school, Stephen, and Stephen and I were very good friends, along with another number of other people there, and it just grew from there. And with the passion of Max and of Barry Matthews, taking us away in Max Grant's blue van every weekend. Would have it all loaded up, the trailer loaded up with these plastic kayaks and some fiberglass kayaks. So we'd go off, we'd run some rivers, and then there'd be school competitions we would go to, and we'd go and do those. And it was then, going through third form, fourth form, fifth form, and that sort of stuff, that I had some other relationships with some other guys from other schools who had met through kayaking and that sort of stuff. And we started going away a little bit more ourselves, obviously getting driver's licenses and that sort of stuff further on helped us and endeavour to sort of be more independent. But before then, we were lucky enough to go to the Junior Worlds in '88. They'd sent New Zealand had sent a team in '86, which met with unfortunately a really sad end to that trip, which some of you will know about. And then three of us, Vaughan Crocker, Warren Cheatham, and myself, were lucky enough to be selected to go to Spain in '88 and race there, which was amazing. It was a great trip. Taken over there by Noel Cheatham, Warren's father, and took us around there. And look, we had mixed results. I think I was, I would have been in the back half of the field. I think Warren was in the top half there, and Vaughan was sort of somewhere around me. And from there, coming back in '88, and then through the late '80s and the rest of the '90s, just sort of doing my own thing. Then teamed up with John Snook, actually, and that was a real turning point for me as well. He set a training program for us, and then through '92, we just trained nonstop. We were just animals at it. We loved it. In Palmer, Waterloo Crez there, we would get out and we would just go train there every morning. I think during the whole winter of '92, we missed 2 sessions because of the winter and because of the weather. And
Wow.
it gets pretty brutal there, that's for sure. But we toughed it out, and we had amazing support from people like Donald Johnson, I think, who you've also chatted to as well. He gave us a massive amount of support, a massive amount of coaching, mentorship. And then also Andy Fuller for me as well was a real key there too, and that sort of thing grew on and through into '93 when John Snook, Angela Hay, and myself, we all went across to America for the Champions Series, did some races there. Then we went to England, to Nottingham, did World Championships there. I think went to it wasn't Nottingham, it was in Italy, did World Championships there, some other World Cup races. Came home, and that '93 trip for John and I was a real grounding trip, a real getting to know what the international scene was like, making some amazing relationships there. We weren't a threat to anybody, Pandora. We were just these two, local lads from Palmy over there on this big scene, trying to have some fun, trying to learn as much as we could. We were respectful of other people, and that was just through our parents bringing us up the right way and that sort of stuff. And I think a lot of the athletes that we were racing against respected that, could see we weren't going to beat them. We were battling to get in the top half of the field. If we got top half of the field, we thought we'd won the race. So it was, that year was really critical for me, particularly. That was where I really bonded my relationship with Andy Fuller. And then 94, I went back and I lived with Andy for 4 to 6 months in Nottingham, just training on the Nottingham course, because that's where the 95 worlds were for Olympic selection. So I thought, well, if I want to go to the games, then this is how I have to do it. So, and Andy started coaching me, which was great. We'd also in 93 become good friends with Sean Pearce, who was world champion in 92, I think it must have been. And he gave us a training program which John adapted to suit us a bit more. And we hung out, I hung out at in Nottingham there, training sometimes with the British team, sometimes not. They were a little bit cagey about who they would let in there for good reason. I don't want some limited has-been or, some wannabe, I should say, coming in there and having a go, So, but over the time, over 94 and then over 95, built some really good relationships with people on the team, with coaches of the UK team and the coaches there. And they really started to let me in. They could see that I was passionate. They could see that I was trying and what I wanted to achieve from it. And once again, wasn't a threat to them, yet they got something out of it and I got something out of it as well, So getting to train, and as most, well, certainly back then, I don't think it's quite as strong as it is now, but the British team back then, if you made the British team, it was almost, what colour medal are you going to get at the Worlds and that sort of thing. It was, it was so competitive. And for me to be able to rub shoulders with those guys, call them friends and train with them really was quite amazing. And Sean Pearce particularly, made a big difference to me as well. The angry man that he was, and I think he's not so much anymore. But like myself, I've mellowed a bit as well. We were both sort of angry men, and him taking me on board as well and doing some training with me, which once again he didn't have to do. I don't think he really got much out of that at all. But that was just, shows the sort of guy that he is as well. So. And then Worlds in 95 was, for me was a really good race, actually. Probably internationally for me, one of the best races I've ever had. We had essentially heats and then straight through to the final. There's about just over 100 people in the heats, and must have been about top 35, I think it was, went through to the final. And I think I was 31st or 35th or 33rd or somewhere around there. I was right on the cutoff sort of thing of going through the final. And it was from the heat that they actually took the Olympic selection from, and it was a maximum of 2 per country. So the Brits, the Germans, the French, all these other teams. Sometimes they had 2 or 3 paddlers ahead of me, but they could only take 2, so it dropped down. So it actually rolled down. And it finished 1 spot before me. I was the first person to miss out. And I'm like, no, I've missed out. But a mate of mine, Ingo Krissinger from Luxembourg, he actually got the last spot for the Olympics. And I was like, okay. And, we had a bit of a chat about it. And then it was only a few hours later that he had problems with his passport. He had migrated from Germany, I think it might have been, to Luxembourg. And there was debacles about his passport, so he actually he got refused the spot, and it rolled back down to me. So whilst it was it was amazing for me, I felt for Ingo. He lost his spot on the games and never actually got to go, and I got his spot. I got the official letter from the Olympic Committee or the World Championship Committee or whoever it was, and it was amazing. I remember, I think calling my parents in the middle of the night, and back then communication wasn't quite like it is now.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
Exactly.
So it was
telegram or something.
Indeed. I was trying to get a fax, and they were expensive as well and hard to do. So so that was amazing. That was a real highlight for me. And then in the final, I ended up finishing 17th. I was 1 second off being inside the top 10, which I was incredibly happy with. I had 2 clean runs. That final for me was what probably was one of the highlights of my career. I had my girlfriend at the time there, Andy Fuller, a lot of the British team, a lot of other people that I've made friends with over the past 2 years there supporting me, which was incredible. Running down the side of the course at Nottingham there in the concrete walls, and that's the support meant a lot, and it certainly helped me get me across the line quicker. That's for sure. So it was it was an incredible time, and then carried on, did some World Cups there, and then the games in '96, and that's just a whole other beast. It really is.